SicEm365 superfan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at SicEm365.com.
All right, this 5 o'clock hour rolling along. Earlier, Phil Bennett. Also, the conversations we had with Dave Aranda, Dede Richards, Kim Mulkey on many things, everything. High school football players of the week. Cowboys last night losing. We'll touch on that in a second as they drop to 2-6. And now J.J. Joe, former Baylor quarterback and radio color analyst for Baylor football, with us on SicEm365 Radio. J.J., as you watch this offense and you see them struggle and how they cannot seem to get off to a quick start, what do you see and what are suggestions if you had them?
Well, man, Smoak, I appreciate you guys having me on. I hate that it's on after a TCU loss. I tell you that.
I bet you do. Yeah.
Man, I think my eyes are not very different than yours and probably many fans. I think offensively, it has to be coordinated. You have to have continuity, and everything starts up front. I don't care what anybody says, and I know the hot topic is Charlie, and we'll get to Charlie, I'm sure. But everything starts up front in offense. I'll tell you, a quarterback, his best friends are his linemen, and if that group is not yet ready for prime time, it's going to be hard for anything to get accomplished, and it's going to make the whole offense look, I guess you could say, a little bit pedestrian, and that's what we're seeing right now. Is I think up front we're just not ready, and then when the linemen do get it, and they do well, then you have your normal snafus or issues at different positions. So it starts up front, man. We're just not there yet. Those kids are just now getting together and getting. I guess there's some continuity between them.
JJ, you mentioned that continuity. Part of it was they were rotating linemen in and out. Xavier Newman played center and left guard,
right?
And that kind of seemed to hurt everything, and that they couldn't get any continuity just within the actual game, much less translating it from practice. As a quarterback, when you've got to swap centers almost series to series, how hard is that?
Number one, I'd have a conversation with Coach if I'm switching centers. We were always under center, so I never had to deal with switching centers unless the guy got hurt. Now, I had Pope, I had Barron, and generally a guy would get hurt or something, you have to swap a center. But when you're under center, you get used to a guy's snap, and it's a lot of stuff that goes on. He makes a lot of calls, but I did see that, and I think they're just looking for a group that works. I think part of it too may be trying to keep guys fresh, but I really think at this point they're looking for a group that works. And they're just trying to find that five. I thought toward the end that five kind of worked good together. I think Newman was at guard, Moore was at center at that time. So it's just they're looking for something. They're searching. These guys just I hate to go back to it, man, but when you have a new guy calling plays and you guys don't have spring, so much gets done in the offseason in spring. It's hard for just me to explain to just people who may not have been through it that the spring, especially when you have a new offense. I remember going from in 89 to 90 when we went from, I think, F.A. Dry, Coach Cotton Davidson were kind of the quasi-coordinators, and we went to Reed. We had spring, and everything just felt like it was like slow, but the terminology was different. Just getting the plays together, getting the different concepts, understand all that stuff happens in the spring, and they didn't have it. And it's just like people say, well, they had Zoom. Well, I can tell you about Zoom. Zoom is about as good as it is on a piece of paper. You got to take that stuff to the field. And they didn't have it. And when you don't have that, then you're off all this time. Then you go into a season, and you're going to ask somebody to play a Big 12 schedule with a new offensive coordinator and offensive linemen that are in and out. You're going to get what we're seeing. What we're seeing is an offense that just isn't together yet, and it's going to take them a season. This is almost a redshirt season. I hate to say it offensively, but it might be a redshirt season if these guys keep going in and out.
So, JJ, what did you see from Charlie specifically? It seemed there were some throws there for him early he couldn't hit, and then obviously a tale of two completely different halves and games, really. The first three quarters, there was nothing to write home about, but all of a sudden you get some tempo and a big deficit, and here's this magical offense out of nowhere. What were your thoughts on the quarterback play Saturday?
We've been spoiled by Charlie in a sense. We've been spoiled around here because, I wrote an article in SicEm365 with you guys. I'm late on my article, by the way. So if you guys talk to Ashley, tell him it's coming. But anyway, Charlie, I said this in the post game. Charlie is not an initiator. Charlie is a finisher. This offense desperately has needed the last few years people to initiate. We've relied on Charlie to finish because he has something in him that when the game is getting close and it's time to what I guess you can say go, that young man seems to go. I cannot explain what it is, but something happens, one or two good plays, but he is a finisher. What this offense needs is someone or some concept or some continuity that can get them through the patches of the game without Charlie having to be Superman. Charlie is not a Superman quarterback. We had one of those. He won the Heisman. So to me, Charlie struggled early. He struggled. I think he would tell you he's not playing to the standard he wants to play. He missed throws that Charlie's been very accurate. I was looking at his stats. He completed 64.5% last year. He's at about 60. That doesn't sound like a big deal, but you see a missed RPO to Atkinson that he never hardly missed. So he's not where we want him to be. Charlie is in a new scheme. He doesn't appear to be as elusive as he used to be because I think that offense called for him to do that. This one doesn't seem to call for Charlie to move and create as much. So with Charlie, I think in this new scheme, he's learning the new scheme, and with the lack of continuity in front of him, and I'm going to tell you, I look out there on the edge, and I said at the end of the game, they just need to start playing with different dudes because nobody's getting separation. Mm-hmm. And that's just fact. And I'm not saying that to be mean to a young man, but coach puts you in the game to be good at something. If you're not good at something, he has to look for somebody who can be good at something, right?
Yeah.
So I saw some young men came in. I know TCU backed off a little bit, but I saw a few young men come in that game late in the game that I said might as well start playing them.
Squirrel
because
Williams,
those kids, Squirrel,
Yusuf
Terry, Jalen Ellis. He didn't get a ball, but I'm gonna tell you, Jalen Ellis was running over my 4 or 5 different times. He was just running open. It was like he's at a track meet. And they just weren't. Charlie didn't see him. So I think at some point the fastest way, Smoak and Paul, to get guys who may not be performing to perform is to put other guys in and start producing some magic. And I'll tell you right away, that guy that you're counting on and is not getting it done, he's going to do one, two things. He's going to shrink, or he's going to step up. And usually a guy who has some metal in him is going to step up and say, hey, he's scoring touchdowns. Let me go score a touchdown.
JJ, did you ever have, and I don't remember exactly because I obviously watched Baylor football and Southwest Conference football, whatever, but were you ever taken out just to be able to have a chance to take a deep breath when things were going a little bit too fast?
I would say my senior year, and it was really because I was a little banged up. My senior year, we started out pretty well. We started like 4-2. And then I hurt my shoulder against U of H, and I was still playing, but it was not good because I hurt my actual throwing shoulder, and I wasn't even throwing during the week. And we got to the TCU game. Actually, it was a TCU game. I hate to say it. And coach said, well, we're going to determine game time what we're going to do, whether we're going to start. At that time, it was Lamont Moore or you. And I was kind of fine because I knew I wasn't healthy. But, it's like a competitor, though. On game day, the adrenaline starts going. You say, man, I can go, coach. So I did not start that game. And really, I think it was coach wanted to see what Lamont could do and to see if he could spur because we had kind of got stale. We ended up losing to TCU anyway. And I actually ended up playing that game. I came in. I didn't start it. I came in and played. So I would say that's probably the only time in my senior year that I could have started because I ended up playing most of the game. But coach kind of took me out. And to say, hey, look, let's see if we can see if Lamont can kind of help get us started, and we didn't, and we got behind. But it can work sometimes. I'm not a big fan of it, but it can work.
My real concern for Charlie in that game wasn't just that he wasn't playing up to his own standards, it was just his physical well-being, and that eventually there's going to be some hits that kind of last for him.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, I get concerned about that for Charlie, but he's done better this year. And I look at it like this. I said this earlier. Charlie is Charlie, and you kind of got to let him play how he plays. Because he only, I think, knows really one good way to play. And if you want that level, it's kind of like what I call it by Michael Irvin theory. So, and I know that's hard, but I'm a Cowboy fan, unfortunately.
Yeah.
When Michael Irvin was at his best, he was the wild man off the field, on the field. He played a certain way, yapping all the time. He was just this bravado guy. And then when he went through and got in all that trouble, he came back and he was tame. He was never even close to the same player. Not that Charlie's like that. I'm just saying Charlie, to me, is a guy that he just plays what I call at-risk football. That means he sometimes is going to get to going, and you start cringing like, oh, Charlie, and then that's just the way he plays. And you kind of got to let him go and say, hey, look, be careful, but you go do you. That's what you got to do with Charlie.
JJ, do you think, and I know you probably don't know exactly, but I'm just wondering, with the situation that happened with Lovett and Ebner last week, do you think that had any carryover, and is that something that you worry about at all, or do you think that they probably got that cleaned up? And we heard Dave Aranda say something really positive about Treston Ebner today, and the fact that he was owning it up to the players' performances after Saturday, while the coaches were owning up to their own performances. But do you think that's sort of an over and done with thing, or is that something that can kind of linger in a locker room?
I think as far as as it relates to the issues with the team, it's over. Meaning, like, those guys probably got in front of their teammates, had to apologize. They got their numbers taken away, their single digits. So I think as far as that goes, it's over. But it did put something in the culture and the fabric of this team. The guys are cool with Tristan. Don't get me wrong. I believe they're cool with Tristan. I believe they're cool with Lovett. But I think that instance sent a message to the guys below them. Those guys are seniors. It sent a message to the juniors, the sophomores, the freshmen, the redshirt freshmen. And shoot, I think now we got some redshirt freshmen, whatever this new. I think it sent a message that this season is over.
Wow. Yeah, and once you lose that edge, right, it's really difficult. They need someone, maybe instead of them creating a play, it's almost like they need somebody they play to like throw up on themselves that creates a play.
Yeah, and I don't want to, look, I mean, I respect what those young men said. I don't want to come across as negative because I understand who I am and all that. But I just want to say when something happens, I think Coach Rule created a culture here of it's us, we're together, we fight. Remember, these guys went one. A lot of these guys went 1-11. Mm-hmm. So for two of your leaders who both, I think, went through that. I'm hoping.
Yeah, they did.
They were freshmen. Yep.
Yeah, to get 3 games in and then that story come out. Man, I'm gonna tell you, I can just imagine, and it sticks with you. And I think we saw it. I mean, I think a TCU game, which really we really needed. Pretty much, we got all hands back on deck for the most part, and this team was listless for 3 quarters almost. Mm-hmm. And you can't tell me that. Don't get me wrong. I think everybody is cool with them and their teammates and their cut for them. But when you send that message, the first thing I'm thinking if I'm a sophomore on that team is, dang, man, they went 1-11 and they bailed it now. So, I mean, so that's why I think now, it's going to be, this is why you pay Coach Aranda his money right here.
Yep.
Is because he has to get this team back. However, by any means necessary. I think it went a long way by what they did at the end of the game. But I think what you do is you start playing some guys who I think they started showing you late. Those young men showed you, hey, man, I'm out here. I'm trying to make my name, right? Mm-hmm. You start playing them. And then that'll bring the older guys back. That's what a team is like. Sometimes you need the younger guys to help the older guys realize these are precious moments, man. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You need help. I mean, they all work together. And I think he can do it, but this is why you pay him that money.
JJ, one more question, unless the others have one as well. But you played the game. Playing quarterback is not just how pretty you throw the ball or how athletic you might be or how multidimensional you might be. Isn't there much more behind the scenes of what coaches also see? Practice habits, not suggesting the others don't have it, commitment, film work, meetings, all of that. Something about that as well, not just how you might throw the ball on the sideline or in a game whenever you play?
Oh, yeah. Coaches see, man. Coaches know everything. I've got 3 boys. I had 2 that played high school sports. One's playing D3 ball in Sherman. And I've been part of, kids maybe not playing as much as you wanted to. And I look over to my wife, whatever, and say, baby, we're not, this coach is with them all the time. And that's the thing. Coaches see everything. There's not many coaches I know of who have any modicum of success that they're not trying to play the best player possible. And so it involves a lot of stuff. Sometimes it's off the field stuff that can keep you from playing. Mm-hmm. So I think if a guy's not getting in or he's not getting his chance, it could be one or two things. It could be one, they don't think yet he's ready to bear the what we call the mental side of it. You got to be able to bear the mental and the physical side of it, especially depending on what position you're talking about. But I think in all circumstances, you got to be able to handle the mental part that comes along with being a D1 player that's relied on play after play, game after game. And then the next thing is sometimes a coach also understands. And just to put it out there, say Charlie. If he pulls Charlie, if a coach makes a decision to pull Charlie, he better be 110% sure.
Yep.
Because the guy that comes in after him, it's a bunch of pressure. It's like I'm not calling Charlie Tom Brady, but it's kind of like trying to follow Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. It's like if that guy comes in and he's just like maybe 25% better than what the guy's playing, it's not enough, my man.
JJ,
you can do that at right guard, but you can't do it at quarterback.
Yeah,
and they have.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah.
Hey, very enlightening. I thought you could help maybe put a bow on it, and obviously they have a lot to work on, a lot of things to do. Who knows what happens this Saturday's game is going to be a tremendous challenge against a really good team at Iowa State, and they're all mad and pissed off about last year's loss. So that ought to be interesting as well.
To JJ's point, I didn't notice Jalen Ellis so much, but I'm glad that he mentioned Jalen getting out there. But Squirrel Williams, Yusuf Terry, Ben Sims, if you're looking for some bright spots from this weekend.
I forgot Ben had a great game.
Yeah, those 3 guys, and then throw in Jalen Ellis, whoever else. And, I mean, you got some pieces to work with and definitely some guys who push the others after this past weekend.
JJ, I'm with you guys, man. Hey, I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you as always, man. Love it when you're on with us. JJ Joe, former Baylor quarterback and also radio color analyst with Baylor football broadcast as well. I had this question for Coach Aranda today.